All right, so we'll move on to the quick announcements there. So there's three things on the list. Two are showing on my screen there. The first one, I'll switch back. So I might get Tim to chat about that. Yep. So Tim, have you got a second to tell us what happened and
About the
how we've
logo?
got a new logo? Yes.
Yes. Okay. So we got contacted by the Joomla trademark team, and it was as a result of some content that was shared recently that has attracted a global audience. And one of the people of the trademark team had a look at our site and saw the logo and had some issues with the fact that we were using the Joomla font. So they asked us to change the font and also adding the exclamation mark on the word Joomla. So we went ahead and made those changes, and we've used a Google font that's freely available, just kept it simple, and it's still using the same icon as we used before. For our Joomla Day, we can still continue using the current logo if we want to, or we could choose to use this new font if we want to be consistent across the two brands. But yeah, but besides that minor changes to the logo there, we also did a few other minor changes to the Joomla site to keep the trademark team happy. And that included putting an exclamation mark on the first instance of Joomla in the wording, and updating the disclaimer at the bottom. Because our site is now, it's the community site as well as the Joomla Day site. We were originally just using the disclaimer that was from the Joomla Day site, but because it's more of a community site, they asked us to reword it slightly. But effectively, it says the same thing, just in a slightly different way. So yeah, but we've made all those changes, and the trademark team are happy with us now, and it's all good. So we have a new logo.
Sweet.
So thanks, Tim. So I'll switch back to. I'll quickly cover the bugs and fun at home. So the last couple of weeks since we've gone into isolation mode, the Joomla Pizza Bugs and Fun has converted into a global Saturday activity where there's been people working on fixing Joomla bugs, doing documentation, doing translation all around the world. Last weekend, I helped out by being a room moderator. So from 7 a.m. Melbourne time through till 10 p.m. on Saturday night, I was connected to the Bugs and Fun room until about 4 p.m. in the afternoon. It was very, very quiet. We were doing it more as an experiment than pushing it out there in case there was problems. And then Saturday night, met a couple of guys from UK who in here, Gary, and then Phil Walton, who's the coordinator of Bugs and Fun. So effectively, the Zoom room and the Google Meet room that we're running, we're able to run for 24 hours straight for people to come in and chat about issues they were working on during the weekend. So with that proof of concept working, this Saturday from around the same time, and we'll also have a Zoom room and a Google Meet room running during the course of the day. And the encouragement is to have everybody that's interested jump on to learn some things and contribute to the project a little bit more in the lead up to Joomla 4's release, which is slated for later in the year. So if you're more interested in, or sorry, if you're interested in doing that, I'll post the link in a second in the chat for the Pizza Bugs and Fun page, and then you can take a look at that. There was an extra item. Oh, sorry. In 2 weeks' time, on the following Saturday, I believe, is the J and Beyond conference, which is going to be a 24-hour virtual conference. So I'll also post some of that into the, or link to that into the chat as well. And so we're still looking for some speakers the other day. So if you feel like filling in some of the time that they've got available there, get in touch with them. I'm going to put the link in a second. And then I'll hand over to Jeff to talk about the Joomla Site Awards.
Right.
Apologies if I'm putting you on the spot for it.
No, that's fine.
Jeff, just
yes.
before you get going, Jeff,
Yes.
can we have a round of applause to James?
Yes. Good idea.
Hope the applause reaches it from the UK.
It's all good. Right, Joomla Site Awards. Obviously, we want to keep this running year to year. That's why it's not tied directly to the Joomla Day. It's independent. We're hoping very shortly we'll have something coming off our main Joomla org.au website that will be, well, the forms for entry, there'll be explanations about it. There'll be a few other pages as well that go along with it. I believe that's just getting the last bits put together now, Patrick? Yes?
Yeah, you've got access now, so that helps.
Yeah, that will help. What else was going to say? So that's that. We'll get that up and running. As soon as that's happening, the first thing people could do could email me with, or put it into Slack chat, whatever, numbers of who's looking forward to entering sites. One of the other things we haven't discussed yet and open to ideas is entering multiple sites. And one of the things different this year to last year is when you're entering your site, you need to nominate which categories you'll be entering. And when I get a chance to put it up there, there will be 1 or 2 new categories as well that you can enter. Due to the new types of sites that are out there, we've sort of broken it down a little bit more and made it easier. Rather than making it. And it's also made it easier for the judges. The judges had a lot of requirements after last year. Last year we had international judges. It was their first time doing what we threw at them. So they come back with a lot of suggestions. So they'll all be implemented for this year as well. Because obviously we get those people's time for nothing to go through all those sites for us. So if we can make their job easier, that's what we'll do. That way we get to keep our judges. Short of that, because it'll all be virtual anyway, but that'll be fine. Cut-off date. As soon as I can get the Joomla site up, we can decide on a cut-off date for it. At this stage, I'm looking probably late October, but once again, that depends on how quickly we get the site up and running now. Or not the site, but you know what I mean, the section in our site up and running with all the information, so everyone's got everything on hand they need to have, and they can start preparing your sites. Even if your site's not finished yet, if it's going to be finished by the due date, then by all means you can enter it, and you can enter it sooner rather than later. One of the hardest things last year, we had a rush at the last moment, so it made it very tight with the judges, and we had them down to the wire as well. This year I want to sort of start pushing stuff off early, so every time we've got a group of sites or something, we'll send it off to the judges, and they'll basically be able to go through and do all their technical sides of their judging. And that way they've just got to come back and compare sites overall then to refresh their minds for each category. That's all I can think of at the moment. I've made Mick, our USA Mick, part of our site. Not that he's going to be doing actual hands-on. He's probably the best I've got for being a devil's advocate for the other side. So every time we have suggestions, rather than us agreeing with each other, we'll have Mick in there as throwing up a spanner, I guess, if it needed, to make us look at things doubly, so we can try and get it as correct as what we can. I think it was about the best, don't you think so, Stuart? And that's about it at the moment. Hopefully before our next virtual meeting, you'll already have everything in front of you, and we'll have a talk about what's happening then once we've got all that up and running. The forms are going to be upgraded as well from last year, and hopefully we'll clarify some areas where people had confusion. And I guess I'll be discussing also with people whether we can actually even have some, not they'll be live sites, or maybe not live sites, but it's, you know, now that Joomla 4 is in beta, there's no reason we couldn't have a category for that, actually, if people wanted to put up early sites, even though they won't be live sites. I don't think it's going to take anything away from the awards overall. But it's just another idea I've been floating with a couple of people at the moment.
Is entry free?
Great direction. You want to have
Entry will be free this year, especially because if I've got someone I'm chasing up for a sponsorship for it. So it'll be a sponsored. There's not big costs involved in it, I guess. So there'll be a sponsored section or a sponsor for it. And, you know, this year will be I can't see why they won't sponsor this year, because for them, it's going to be very beneficial, because there's basically only be the Joomla Site Awards sponsor, and that's it. I don't think we don't need to be chasing sponsors for anything else, do we? Definitely not for our virtual jugs. It'd be nice, but can't justify there. So no, that's what I'm looking at. We'll have a sponsor, so the entries are free. If anyone has a problem with, you know, if there is some sort of entry cost, it would be very minimal. And obviously it's split up between the more entries we got, the less the cost as well. But like I said, all going well, we'll have a sponsor on board and there'll be no cost for anybody. It'll just be free entry. And even if you think your site's not as pretty as some or things like that, that's not the only thing that we're judging on. There's sites there for technical sides. There's sites there for SEO. So, you know, you can win awards in things you mightn't have. I was trying to think, there was a site last year that wasn't maybe the best looking, but technically and the idea behind it and everything else, it was very good in its category.
And wasn't there a site last year that was actually your WordPress?
No, not WordPress. There was someone submitted a Drupal one, but that didn't get through the gates. So having said that, of course, it did get through the first gate. We'll try and avoid that this time. But yeah, it didn't make it to the awards list for the judges to look at. That would have been very embarrassing from our point of view. So yeah, apart from that, no. If anyone's got any ideas, if you're involved in last year's, for instance, you've got ideas to pass back. I mean, Marty and that from MIDI IT, not MIDI IT, what are they called?
Yeah, MIDI Digital.
MIDI Digital, that's
Mighty
it.
Digital.
Mighty Digital, I keep saying MIDI, I get slapped around again.
Oh, sorry, Michael.
I would have thought it's obviously Mighty.
I'm going to get slapped around now. I've been caught out. I did this enough last year. You think I'd learned. But
that's Trump James calling Owen something else, so that's all right.
Yeah, I know. Doesn't go well when you've been corrected a dozen times, but with that in mind, I mean, those guys took out the overall winner last year. The site was very good. It was clean. It was polished, but it also fitted in. I was going to point out that it not only fitted into the polished look, it was very technical underneath as well, which filled some other categories. But this year, like I said, we've got more categories broken down, and you've got to nominate your categories that you're going for. You can nominate more than one category if you think it actually fits more than one category. For instance, the Mighty site last year could have been put in for both, the best looking site. It could have also been put into one of the technical categories in that as well. And if you think you've got your on-page SEO perfect, and your the only off-page we'll be looking at is backlinks and local search. So if you think you've got all that weight off for your site, then why not put in for the SEO category? So as simple as that. That's about it from me. Sorry, I bumble on too much.
No, that's right. Thanks, Jeff. So here we will keep on misplacing the agenda. Oh no, there we go. So general question and answer session, or just chit chat. So anyone that's got anything to say or bring up, or questions to ask about Joomla problems, now's your window of opportunity. Otherwise, thanks for coming, and you can feel free to leave if you're not sticking around for the next part. But,
my only question, if Tim's still around?
yeah, he's there.
Right.
Yes, I am. Yeah. Hi.
Great. A question about our Joomla awards will have to be looked at as well. I guess the graphics and that we've used on them, which we used because, once again, they probably are not fitting the same category. So I guess we'll just get in contact with you
Yeah, send through the details, and I can get the trademark team to check it if you like, or I can just give you my advice based on what they've discussed with me.
Yeah, I
If
think
you're
it's just
still
a
in
matter
the
of fonts.
yeah, so if you're still in the conference drive from last year, Jeff,
Yep.
there's a logo folder in there that's got all the new versions.
Right. Yeah, no problems. That's good.
Illustrator and PNG and a couple of JPEGs.
Oh, that's good. We'll just pull them straight out and give them to the girl with the illustrator, and away she'll go. Sounds good. Thank you.
I think Carly actually owns that folder, so if she's doing it for you. So,
She does.
yeah. We're looking at different topics coming up. So we sort of need to work out what people are interested in, what things people might want to talk about. I've got a few feelers out on a few subjects where we're going to have international people coming in to do the presentation. So if there's topics that you're after an expert for, or if you know an expert that might be interested, let us know. Whether tonight's topic is a bit more advanced or not advanced enough or not deep enough, that type of feedback's quite handy. The best place to do that would be in the various meetups, or if you're in the Slack, put it in there somewhere. One topic that the guys from the UK pointed out to me on the weekend, what I wasn't aware of, was another service. So a number of us are using mysites.guru or Watchfully. There's actually a extension in Europe somewhere that is called Your Sites, which is actually, instead of going to a third party like Watchfully or MySites, it's actually a component you can self-host that will do all of your site maintenance. So you're not giving your information off to a third party. And Gerard, who is the guy that's written that, is happy to arrange a session if people are interested. We're also in process of writing a series of articles for Joomla magazine coming forward, where we're trying to help demystify GitHub and using Git to contribute to the Joomla project. So I'm looking for some people that might have more Git experience than I have. I've started causing havoc in the Joomla Gits and a couple of other Gits because I'm now at the point where I can log a feature request or log a bug, but I'm not at the point where I can actually code it properly and create a pull request or fork the Git properly. So once I get to that point, then I can go and report a bug, fix the bug, and put it in as pull request to contribute. But at the moment, that's a bit beyond my skill set. But this series of articles that'll be over the next couple of months of the Joomla Community Magazine will stitch together to be able to put that into something that people can follow as a tutorial series with working examples, including a bug that I actually reported 10 years ago, and the solution that was implemented was just as bad as the problem itself. And so I've now found where that code is and what that status of that bug is. And that's going to be like an article on itself as to how to go about finding something or improving things in the Joomla project so that you can get that done. So, yeah. So is there anything that anybody would be interested in? Russell, you mentioned the other week that you were going to do one on page builders, or was it RS? Was an RS thing? You're muted again, Russell, sorry.
Yeah, I've been doing a bit of work with UTheme Pro version 2, which is a really nice tool. So I reckon that deserves a look. Yeah.
Do you class that as a page builder or just as a template tool?
It's both.
Okay.
It's both. You build the pages all right, but you can build a template that you can actually export. It's it really needs a bit of time working through it. It's quite an extensive product, and I think, from my point of view anyway, it's by far the best integrated and smoothest page builder I have used out of around about half a dozen of them. So, real
I'd love
nice.
to do a head-to-head quicks with you then.
Sorry?
I'd love to do a head-to-head quicks with you.
Quicks?
Yes. So Quicks is
Q-U-I-X.
so Quicks is one that Jeff uses, and then
Oh, crikey. Not another bloody tool, really?
No,
No, it's been around for a long time.
I think there's so many of them out there.
Like you, Phoebe.
Yep.
He was here earlier.
I'm building a site with it at the moment. I'm doing a rebuild in between a couple of other things. So maybe in around about a month, I will have that thing finished out of the pipeline. And then I'll have a useful, I guess, round trip of the thing that we can put on.
Owen's just thrown in Pantry 5 to challenge there.
Russell, are you using the dynamic content feature of the YouTheme Pro template with the new development?
I'm looking at that very seriously to see if it can replace some of the CCK things I've been using.
Yeah, I'm investigating that as well at the moment. Even I'm very early in it, but it does look extremely pleasing so far, what I'm seeing with it. So
that's what I did with Quicks. I've replaced all the CK options I used to use. The only thing we still use the CK now is their template builder.
Yeah, okay.
And of course we build a bare template and then we just build it all up from there. We build a bare template lots of times because there's things we want to do in wrappers and that we don't want the page builder to touch.
Oh yeah, look, there's just a million ways to build websites. You know, even Joomla websites aren't there. There's just, we're embarrassed for tools. We really are.
Page builders, we're not. There's so many page builders out there now. It's unbelievable. But I think YouTheme is the new person I've just got to come to work for me. Used to be a YouTheme person, so I've converted her to Quicks. She didn't have a choice.
Well, the thing about YouTheme Pro, that the big thing for this group is that you build the template once and then you can ship it to both Joomla and WordPress. Or you can build it on WordPress. It's exactly the same page builder tool. So, yeah, I'm always looking for a way to convert prospects from this WordPress blinkers to Joomla. Okay, and this, I reckon, is just going to be a perfect Trojan horse.
It is. A good page builder is all they need because that's all they're used to looking at.
Yeah, yeah.
But that being said, we could do half each. That's the best way. I think you need to look at those things in the 1 month, if that makes sense. We've done that in our meetings before where we've done similar things. The reason for that is you look at one and then look at the next. You're still fresh in your mind what you liked about one or didn't like about the other and things like that. And I'm not trying to convert anyone either way because they're both good tools. They're probably two of the best on the market as far as I'm concerned.
All right. Well, we'll work that out. I mean, I've had experience with the 2-on-1 presentations on the one product, and I came off second best. And not game to do that again. Thanks.
No, it won't
we'll
be like.
See how we go.
I don't want to work out the best so much. I want to look at both solutions as an answer either way, because different people look at different things.
If it was the one that I think it was, Russell, he was set up to fail. It was horrible.
I know. Basically, I was ambushed.
I didn't ambush you.
What?
Me?
No, I can't remember who it was that. Which one it was? But yes, we've had a few.
No, shall remain nameless.
Yeah. I do agree. Owen, your comment a second ago that you're a fan more of showing them content only and not letting them do any styling. But yes, the styles that some people tend to apply to things make it a bit hard. So for the guys in the UK, the Australian ecosystem of most of the people that are attending that are on the screen at the moment is that a lot of us are site implementers. So our day job is to put the sites together and then hand it over to the client. And so quite often, so I know that Russell and Matt and a couple others are all will design the site to within an inch of its life, and then give the clients sort of a minimal amount of content leverage to put in their own content. So
they can't break it.
yeah, that's the theory. I can still break it.
I love the theory. I had one break and unbreakable today.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm a big believer in most of your styling being set up in your template and carried through.
Yep.
And not using too much styling within the page builder itself. But anyway, each their own. I think that's a great idea. I like that other idea too. Sorry, just
you're right, Jay.
Half a sentence left, then I'll finish. I was going to say, Patrick, that other idea you had for that self-contained tool, I would love to look at that rather than using what I have been using, which I've just stopped using recently, which was for the external management of sites versus internal.
Oh, yes, yeah. So my sites and Watchfully versus using your sites.
Yes.
So yeah, so I'll chase him up. I haven't got the one Google Doc I would need to have open isn't open at the moment, so fiddly to find. We did have some other ideas, so yeah, we might seed those in some of the discussion boards on the meetup to sort out.
I can talk to Russell outside of this. I'd love to work in with Russell and do that as one meeting. I think one meeting would be great for that.
Yep. And what I think we're looking to do, it's not that we don't have a lot of people from Canberra, it's that the Canberra user group on Meetup's been a bit static over the last couple of years. So we're going to recycle that Meetup account and turn that into an Australian Joomla user account. So then rather than me having to post out everything to all 4 meetups, we'll just put everything out onto the virtual jug and see how that goes while we're still in isolation mode. And then each of the cities can go back to their local ones at the end of that process.
I did contact Stozzle tonight from Canberra.
Yeah, no, so he joined he sent a request to join the Brisbane user group just before we started tonight. So I've left that one to Stuart to action.
But he didn't make it in. Okay.
Yeah, 5:58 he sent the email.
Right. Also, Patrick, I'm also interested in any sort of videos or tutorials or conversations around GitHub. It was probably about a year and a half ago where I was really investing some time and I wanted to push some things into the core. I did a full sort of sweep of the regular expressions that are used. I combed through every single preg call in the entire source code, and they virtually all needed tuning up, and I did that. But then when I got to the end, I wasn't confident that I'd be able to go through all the formalities and do it without disrupting anything. So I haven't looked at it. Like, I've got that on my other computer somewhere, but I haven't looked at it for like a year and a half. And since then, I've learned a lot more about GitHub through my current work. But yeah, I would like it to be a lot easier to contribite.
It's certainly a confidence thing. So what and even with that one I mentioned that was 10 years ago, at that time I was just putting through the feature request, and I think that the community hadn't evolved enough yet to mature. So the feedback wasn't actually coming back from the person that picked up the request, and so that's where. So what the actual problem is that if you at the start of the year, quite often you forget that it's a new year, so you put last year's date into your date. So if you were to go and create a new article and then put today's date in the start publishing date, but accidentally put last year's date in May as the finishing date for the article, and then save it, that's going to cause an error because it's going to finish publishing before it started publishing. So the solution that's actually in Joomla at the moment is that it just transposes the two values. So the 2019 date goes to be the start publishing date, and the start publishing date, if that's today, goes to be the finishing published date. And so what happens is that your article instantly becomes unpublished because the finished publishing date has gone back to back. So now that I've gone back and found where that all is, and now I know what I need to do, and I have found that over the weekend I found that it's actually in 8 different parts of Joomla. So the same thing happens for publishing banners. Same thing happens. So anything that's got a start and finish publishing date by default gets this treatment, and it's been in there for 10 years.
Well, can we call it a bug if it's actually user error?
Well, sometimes you've got to save users from themselves. That's what Microsoft likes to do.
Yes.
Is that version 4, Patrick?
Sorry?
Is that still in version 4?
Yes, yeah. So I tested it the other day. So it's been in there since late 1.5, I think was when I first reported it. It got transferred into 2.5, into 3, and now 4. And so my opinion is the better solution would be that it should prompt you to tell you that you've made an error and to check the dates, and then get you to correct the dates, instead of just doing a summary swap of the numbers and leaving you possibly more confused than you were in the first place, because your article will never publish. So that's the case study that I'm going to put into one of these articles when I get to, I think I worked out that I've called that level 3, GitHub level 3 knowledge, or whatever the gaming term is. I should talk to my kids about that. And then I'll go through how to go about fixing that, fork it, fix it, put a pull request in, and get that back set up back into the system. So yeah.
Okay. I wanted to also drop in another initiative that I'm pretty sure it was Jeff's brainchild, but he was talking about having perhaps another meetup or another Zoom sort of thing between these virtual meetups.
Yep.
And potentially one of the things that could be done is that you have like a guided upgrade sort of meetup where you have a website, you have a Joomla site, you want to upgrade it, but you're not fully 100% confident that it's all going to go smoothly, or that you'd like have some hand holding along the way. I think it would be really, really appealing to record that sort of stuff. I mean, you'd have to take precautions that passwords and things like that weren't being presented screen, but if we can create a collection of upgrades, which would be tagged sort of going from Joomla 3.8 blah 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 to 4.0, or whatever it is from what to what, I think that would make a very attractive thing to archive, so that anyone's got a or it might even highlight that a particular extension breaks at a particular upgrade. So I think it could be good, but it needs buy-in. You need to have a few people involved there.
Yeah, so even if it's a small group, so that's exactly what the docs and fun at home concept is trying to achieve a bit at the moment, but more with the bugs being fixed on the fly and documentation being written on the fly. If you haven't been involved in the Joomla docs project, Joomla docs is written in a wiki format, so anybody can go and create an account and then go and update the documentation. At the moment, that is one of the things that I think is going to be a struggle for release of Joomla 4, is that there's lots of content out there that isn't quite working yet. So if you go to launch.joomla.org, which is the Joomla test environment, so you can install in 30 seconds a cloud access account with a Joomla 4 rollout as a test site, and then you can go through and start capturing things and documenting them. That's one version short of what the current beta dev is at. So there's another link that if you're interested I can send you, which is what I was showing earlier, is the one that I've installed locally, and that's got workflow built into it. But if you were to roll that out, then you're more than welcome to start contributing documentation if that's something that you're interested in or competent at. So yeah.
Yeah, last year for the bugs, that's what I worked on, was the documentation of the media manager of all things. So
right.
I don't know how much is left in there still. A lot of that, it's even functionality's changed since then, so some of that would have had to be rewritten again anyway.
Yeah.
But I was using that wiki, and that was quite easy to use, which was good.
Yeah, it's easy enough to add things to the wiki. I think, and it's the same with the GitHub stuff, is knowing. the best way to describe things or the best way to program things. So down the track, it's not that I won't know how to use GitHub. The bigger challenge is going to be that I won't know how to program in the Joomla framework cleanly, so that I can know that pull requests go in there straight away. And that's part of that is that the Joomla documentation doesn't quite match up with detailed examples on that, and that's another sort of area of following up that I've got. So just see who's
Any other ideas around these interim meetups, Jeff?
Well, one good one just come out of that would have been documentation, for instance, which, as Patrick pointed out, always lags because not enough people put time into the documentation side, and that's been since I've began programming in the 70s, that's always been an issue.
Yeah.
For different reasons.
How might you develop that into a meetup night? Like how do you think
for that we would do the same as what we did for the bugs, only be a short version, wouldn't it? And it's not too difficult getting in the basics of documenting. We could go through the steps one night, similar to what you do for your, which I never remember the name of, the Joomla stack.
Yeah.
It's a similar thing, you do a demonstration, a live demonstration and play it. The same thing for the documentation. We just pick an area, we work as a group in there.
Yeah, okay. So I think that's the easiest time to start that is a Saturday with the bugs and fun at home. So if we're running that again this weekend, then from 7 a.m. on Saturday, I'll be sitting there and we end up taking the iPad to the shops and things like that, just in case someone popped in, which no one did. So with that little bit more notice, getting a bit of involvement in this side of the world before everything starts up. But so I think the activity really started up once Europe woke up, and so that wasn't until about 4 o'clock in the afternoon in Australia.
Yeah.
So we could sneak in with and blast away a whole heap of documentation.
If I remember rightly, we still had to do pull requests and that for them.
For the docs?
For the working on areas of the docs. Not for doing the docs themselves,
right?
But for, there was listed in there.
For Pizza Bugs and Fun, that might have been set up that way. If you go to that Bugs and Fun at Home link, there's actually there's a Google Doc, a Google Sheet that's linked up with what the primary focus of the documentation is at the moment. So you can just pick up a document and go and do what you need to. But for Joomla 4, you need to roll out an installation to be able to access all of that. I must say that was one of the other things that impressed me with Joomla 4 was that Brian Tiemann used to Skype when he was out here for the 2013 conference that he could install Joomla 3 in about 15 seconds or under 30 seconds or something like that. Mind you, he had the database all set up and everything in Clipboard ready to go. I reckon that you could get that down to 10 seconds now with the less questions that are asked on the Joomla 4 installation.
Super easy.
Yeah.
Super easy.
Patrick, I mean, to be fair, the documentation should be factored into the beta rollout plan, and we're only at beta 1 at this stage.
Right. Yeah.
There's got to be at least 6 betas. There
has to be. No, that's right.
So the code base isn't stable at this stage. There's going to be a lot of areas where you could only do basic documentation, if that. So the question is, has the project team released a documentation plan? Have they at least got a structure for it in an area where they've marked out, stable, TBA, or, this is a hot area of development and stay away from it? Because there's a lot of that going on in the betas at the moment.
Yeah. So I think a lot of the things that are sort of core Joomla that everybody's familiar with are pretty much now, they're at the beta, almost release candidate stage. It's these other side projects that are a bit newer that are fitting that other phase.
All I'm asking is, have they released the documentation plan, at least the priority list? Is there one that we can get out of the project?
So if you go to the Google Bugs and Fun at Home page, there's the link to the Google Drive document.
Yeah, that Google document's got all the sections that need doing. What you do, you take a subject off there and you work on it. then you put it back at the stage and update the docs to reflect the stage that you've left it at.
Yeah. What are the tabs across the bottom, Jeff? If you've got that open.
I haven't got it open. And
haven't got it open. That's right. So there's 3 levels of tasks. So I think it's Adventurer, Conqueror, and some, I can't remember what the third one is. So as you go across the sheet, each of the tabs is a progressively harder part of the project. So documentation is on the first tab through to programming on the third tab. So I've sort of only started diving back into it in a big way in the past fortnight while I was writing the articles for the magazine. But that's now piqued my interest, and I've just got a few small tasks, like some videos from August to get out of the road, and once they're done, they'll be up and running. I'll clear that, and then I'll move on to other Joomla tasks. So,
I was going to say the functionality is all there, but Russell, basically now, I'm pretty sure that's all locked in. So
I know.
Going to change.
Yeah, I've been watching it for 6 months.
Yeah, so that allows us to complete a lot of documentation that still needs to be done, and if it needs minor tweaking down the track, then that's not so bad. If the bulk of it's already there.
Yeah, that's right. But the panels have to stay the same, and
that's right.
Going to take screenshots and all that stuff.
That's true. That's
there's a bit of a already. There's been a few things that I've sort of logged in and looked at and gone, that's not quite right. So logging those types of bugs is still an important part of the process as well, just to get around that. So if you're learning by documentation and then you add things in from there, you'll probably find that you get a lot more. You'll help in both factors. Yeah.
Okay. My favourite job, documentation. I just love that. It's the best thing. Just the best.
He says through gritted teeth. So, yeah.
I know you love it that much there, Russell. You can tell. Not.
Isn't pleasure written all over my face, Woodsy?
No, it's just stamped on your forehead.
Anyway, guys, thank you very much. I'm going to disappear for the night.
Good night.
As well. I'll talk to you soon, Gary. And then thanks for joining us, Owen and Gary from London. Hope it was useful.
Yeah, thanks to all the London guys. There's lots of Englanders tonight.
Thanks for having us, guys. Interesting chat.
Guys. Been good fun. Shame I came in a little bit late. I missed the presentation, but I guess you'll be recording it.
Yeah. So it was recorded, and then Stuart can comment on how long he thinks it's going to take to cut it up this time.
2 days.
Well, always takes me 4 months to get mine out.
Yeah.
2 days?
It'll be up tomorrow.
Yes. So what we'll be doing is recycling the link. Well, so recycling the page and making a new copy. You can access Robert Fairhead's presentation now from April by going to the news page on the Joomla Australia site and then filtering for tags for AB, and that was it. Yeah, AB Jug, which is the Australian Virtual Joomla User Group, and then you'll see the recap article there, and Robert's videos and Robert's slide share are both embedded in the article. And now that we've sorted out the embedding code, then as soon as Stuart gives me the playlist link, I'll pump that out. So the videos will be ready possibly Thursday, and then hopefully Thursday night, Friday, the link to the article will be there. And we'll
Patrick?
Yep.
I copied and pasted all the chat into...
Good, you're done. Cool. Yep. Excellent. All right. Well, thank you all. Hope you enjoyed it. And
thanks, Patrick.
See you all. And how's the weather in London? Raining?
We've had sun since February. We've had really good weather. It's very unlike us.
Beautiful over here. We're all out in bikinis.
Gary hasn't turned his camera on, so I'm not sure what that is stating at.
Not a sight to behold.
No. All right. Thanks, everyone.
All right.
See you
Thanks,
soon.
guys.
You guys, good job. See you later.
See ya.
Good job.
Yeah.
Good night.
Thank you.